Iburu, Iboya, Ibuche, everybody in Cyberland. It's your favorite Babalao. At least I hope so. Omo doing Dileke. Coming at you with another one of my Help Me, Help You videos. In this one, particularly, we're going to talk about Ofun, Okana, Omo Aggayu. And before I jump in there, like I tell you all the time, many blessings to you all, and thank you very much for all of you that like to give me the likes and give me the shares, leave me the comments, and shoot us the emails. I know my wife and I would definitely appreciate it. And again, we're going to push hard and we're going to work hard for each and every one of you. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. Ofun Okana with Omo Aggayu. And this is for Noli. So when I think about Ofun Okana and I think about Aggayu, Aggayu walks the world very stout, right? Very strong, but very loner, right? Very loner, and kind of very morbid to things that are around them. That Aggayu has some of those characteristics that they don't understand the roots to who they are. They don't understand the things that they do. So no different than a bull in a china shop. You know how we talk about what happens if a bull goes through a china shop, right? Well, a bull's so big and the horns, everything's gonna break. It's gonna be a mess. Aggayu walks the world almost that way. So Aggayu's kids, at the end of the day, need to understand who they are. They need to understand their surroundings. They need to understand that sometimes they don't realize all the harm that they're putting on themselves, all the harm they're putting on others, because they're very naive to certain things, because they walk the world and the world kind of wraps around them, right? Because they just walk and they just push things on the side. But Omo Aggayus, who are able to harness that and understand that who's who they are, and if they have a great upbringing to the point where they realize that their strength is walking the earth in general, that typically they're pretty good, then they can be a force to be reckoned with. So that brings me to my point. So Omo Aggayu, when we talk about Omo Aggayu and we talk about Ofun Okana, there's a couple of things that stick out. We talk about Obatala, we talk about Chango. Obatala and Chango are constantly taking care of Ofun Okana. Chango specifically has a great pact with Aggayu. When we look at the two energies of Chango and Aggayu, and you talk about the Patakis and you talk about a son and father type relationship, we look at the relationships of the head of those who come out of Ofun Okana and are Omo Aggayu. So you got to look at that relationship, which means that take advice where advice is given. When it comes to Aggayu gets a lot of advice from a lot of different avenues, because Aggayu, the way he walks the earth, a lot of the divinities respect that. So here is lesson number 1 for Ofun Okana with Omo Aggayu. Pay attention to the advice given to you by friends, by family, and I say this a lot because when your advice is given, sometimes it's not us that are giving the advice, it's our heads that are giving the advice to the person. So that's why we say mufurubale, right? We bow our heads because we're giving thanks to the Orisha to the Orisha, right? The guardian to the guardian. Omo Aggayu, especially with Ofun Okana, we gotta remember that. Okay, and that's very important. Pay attention to those who are giving advice, because you never know who's giving the advice. Always listen. No one's saying you have to act, but you got to think about it, all right? And it's very, very, very important. So then when we talk about Obatala, Obatala comes out in this sign very strong. Why? Because Obatala also protects this sign in the sense that this is the where the Pataki of Orula and Obatala, and how the rabbit comes and helps them with the job they have to do for Iku and whatnot. So therefore, Obatala is always grateful to this sign. So this sign teaches us to be humble. The sign teaches us that we have to be very close to o batala. This sign also teaches us that no matter what, at the end of the day, we got to be more kind. We got to be more wise, because there's a representation of batala that hovers around this sign that we have to give respect to. You have to dress more in white. It's very, very, very important. But more importantly, just like Omo Batalas, Aggayu has some of the same vices. You gotta not drink, okay, so much. You cannot eat so much, especially a lot of meat, a lot of salt, because a lot of those things are gonna hurt your feet. They're gonna get stomach pains. So you gotta watch your diet. A lot of those things in Aggayu and Obatala kind of overlap themselves, especially in this sign, okay? Because in this sign, here's the other thing you gotta pay attention to, is that there's a big course of eguns, okay? And before I jump on the egun, let me finish off that diet. Even in the diet, because the rabbit was the one who helped, you can't eat rabbit. You can't eat rabbit. Do not eat rabbit. All right? That's just the bottom line. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because later on, there's going to be a priest or a priestess that's going to save you with that same rabbit. Okay? So don't eat it. Don't eat it. All right. So then we jump into the egun aspects of this sign. When we talk about the eguns, we talk about them in multiple ways. I told you how the rabbit helped Orumala and Obatala in order to complete a job they needed to do for Iku. So the rabbit helped all that out. Okay, so they were able to push out Iku, which means you push out death. So when we talk about the essence of death in this sign, we got to remember a couple of things. Okay, and one of the big things that I think we need to remember is going to be that because there's a tie to eguns, you have to remember who's around you. If you have deceased parents, if you have deceased uncles, aunts, someone that you were close to, you have to always give them a spiritual mass. That is very important in this sign. Because when we talk about this sign at the end of the day, Ofun, Okana, we're talking about Ofun and the representation of the eguns, and we're talking about a way to honor them. Because they are the ones that we're trying to keep at bay at a certain point because of the attraction that Ofun Okana brings to the eguns. But typically it's not good attraction. That's why Ofun Okana, you got to be very careful with having holes in the house or in the backyard, because the holes is when we feed the ground and when we feed and when you bury people, right? The representation is there. Why? Because that is how the eguns start to lift, is when we start to dig. So for this sign, be very careful about digging holes. If you have holes around your house, top them up, right? More importantly, there's taboos that talk about, don't leave food overnight, don't leave food on the table and so forth. For you particularly, okay, it's bottles, all right? Because there's stories about the hollowness of the bottle and the representation of the whole. Pay close attention to bottles. So if you have a bunch of bottles of water and they're empty and they're leave, or a bottle of beer or whatever, there's two options there. You could put the bottle on the side, you could fill it up with water, but you don't want a house or give a house to an obsessed spirit, an obsessed egun to hide, because it's going to turn your life upside down. Ofun Okana suffers a lot with the eguns. Okay, you gotta tend the eguns. You gotta be close to the egun. Obatala is gonna take care of you. Or Chango is gonna give you advice through other people. Orula is gonna protect you. You have your awofaka. All right, but more importantly, learn to give your warriors baños, baths, de omiero. Okay, because that's very important. More importantly, and I'm going to leave you with this, because there's a lot to talk about. Like I tell you all the time, we can talk all day. We can talk hours on signs. And we could talk hours on patakis of signs. But more importantly, my biggest concern is the unborn child in this sign. In this sign, for women, you got to be very careful to make sure that you're watching pregnancies. For men, you got to watch the spouse or the girlfriend, whoever's having the child. And you got to make sure that the proper balls are happening so that child does not get caught up or ends up passing away. Or the baby comes out sooner than it's supposed to and the woman suffers and ends up passing away. Or if you're the woman, you pass away. There is a lot to that. So you have to watch the unborn child very closely in Ofun Okana, because the Egun's influence, there becomes a friction between life and death. And we got to keep an eye on that, okay? In this sign, it also talks about Aggayu. Here's where Aggayu comes in, especially with this sign where I told you Aggayu's rough and he walks through the earth. Respect your elders, your significant other, in all manners, physical, spiritual. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to be respectful, and you got to be a little bit more gentle, if you know what I mean. Okay, because that is important. Because the Eguns are always watching. In this sign, the person likes to do a bowls a lot in order to get out of jams. But typically, just follow the typical advice, and don't hold things for anybody, and stay out of everybody's business. Okay, Ofun Okana can't get into nobody's business, because that's how the Egun start to influence, right? And you get to all the chatter, and you get into people's business, and don't get into anything that you're not supposed to get into. Worry about your circle, worry about you, and push everything out to the side. I think I said enough with this one. I could go all day, but with that said, Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche, Cyberland. Definitely shoot me an email, so my wife and I can respond. Hit us, give us a like, give us a share. Again, la regla de ifa at gmail.com. That's la.regla.de.ifa at gmail.com. la.regla.de.ifa at gmail.com. If anything, leave us a comment. We'll respond. We'll shoot the email out there if you need the email again. But again, I like to keep these videos short, give you a little bit about your sign, your Awofaka, your Ikofa, because I think it's important for you to walk that spiritual journey and know what you're walking and how you're walking in a better organized way. And that's what I want to offer. So with that said, Iburu Iboya Bucheche. Noli, I hope you enjoy this one. And for all those out there with Ofun Okana, for those that are Omo Aggayu, I gave you a little bit about Omo Aggayu. Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche.